gravity, there's no saturation, there's no electrons, electrons, gluons, nothing. Simply absence of everything. If we exist now, would there be a time in the past, as I said, time in inverted quotes, there was absolutely nothingness?
I don't know. For me, I think there can't be, because where could we have then evolved from? How would that process have begun? But then, as a...
So you say that you can't have something from nothing?
Yes, but then where did it come from? I don't
So let's go step by step. It is only reason.
You know the Christian faith, it says that everything that is here must have a designer. Everything that is designed must have a designer.
Mm-hmm.
And then I kind of know the counterargument to this, then where did God come from? Somebody or something must have designed God. And then like you say, oh yeah, God, he's all good, he's all powerful, he's all of this, he doesn't need a designer. But that contradicts its own theory. That goes against its own.
So let's
But that would be on
understand
a way where, and I'm just going to say this and then carry on, but that would be on a platform where you're saying that God was created. Because if you then say that God was created, then in that sense, he would be the creator. But we would then say God is the first and the last, but has no beginning or end. But then to even comprehend that, you need to start understanding, like going back to the basics. For me, just to throw that sentence out there, it wouldn't make so much sense and it would seem like so refutable. But then if you take it back to the basics of your options of how we were created, where did you get something from nothing? Did something create itself, or was it created? And then once we get to that sort of understanding out of the three options, you would then say, okay, cool. Well then, to close all the loopholes and all that, we need to now understand who the creator is. And that would then come to that meaning where is the first and the last, but no beginning or end, and that sort of stuff. I'm going to pass it back to this guy because he sounds more, he's saying more bigger words than me right now, so I'm staying quiet now.
I just want to, so we can share our understanding about this reality. That's it. Right? If it makes sense to you, it makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, we can agree to disagree. Your question, if it indeed is a question, it's not asked very recently. This is a question that's been asked a long time ago, hundreds, in fact, if not thousands of years ago. This is a question also reported in one of our traditions of the Prophet, 1400 years ago. Like people, there will come a time when people will say, okay, you say God created this, God created that. And one day they'll say, okay, who created God? And there are responses to this question by our Prophet. But I want to just divert the question to come back to the question itself. You see, when we ask this question, there's underlying assumption that if we were to ask this question, then we actually answer that there is no God, in a way. Somehow people think, if you cannot answer this question, then you cannot accept that there is a God, and you have to disprove and God exists. They don't follow one from the other. It just shows, okay, this question needs to be answered. Okay, now let's go back to the question. We know a question, to be a question, it has to have two essential attributes. Sorry to be technical. Two essential attributes. It has to have potential answers, and it should be free from inherent contradictions. If it doesn't have an answer, then it's not a question. It has to be something that has potential answers. Okay? So that question, if it indeed is a question, has to have potential answers. And it has to be free from inherent contradictions. So let's deal with the first point. Say it has potential answers. Now, if I were to give you an answer, how would you know whether the answer is correct or not? Do you have the tools or the way of understanding that, yes, I agree, this is the right answer. I disagree, this is the wrong answer. So we have to know, if I said, okay, let's say there are these potential answers. Who created the creator? Number one answer is someone else. It's an answer. Another option is no one. Nothing created it. It's a potential answer. Another one. I don't know. Another one. I don't care. You have all these answers, but I don't know, I don't care are not real answers, right?
Well, it might be I don't know yet.
No, but that's not an answer though. If you go on exam and say, okay, who was the first president of the United States? I don't know, it's not the correct answer. It's simply you don't know the answer, but there is a right answer.
Yeah.
So to our question, something else created it, or no one created it. these seems to be two binary answers where it's either or. There's no in between. Okay? Of the first one, you can have sub-steps. Who created that something that created the creator? Who created that something that created the creator that created the creator? Yeah? So you can have a chain of creators for the creator. That chain could be ad infinitum, with no end, or it can have an end. Yeah? All of this. Now, before we go into explaining all of this, let's focus on one thing. Let's focus on one thing. The question itself is loaded with many assumptions. I'll tell you why it's assumptions, and it's loaded with inherent contradictions. That is why we shouldn't even answer the question, because it's not a question. Okay. Why do I say this? It is saying, who created the creator? Meaning what? You are assuming there is something else who exists, who has the power, and who can create, and that creator was created and had a beginning. So if we are not able to qualify our assumption, okay, prove that that creator had a beginning, prove that their time exists, prove that there's another creator that exists or potentially exists that can create this creator. All of this we can't, because these are based on assumptions. It's like asking, who's the father of Santa Claus? Now, Santa Claus, the metaphorical, figurative usage, not the Saint Nicholas, but Santa Claus, Father Christmas. He doesn't exist. So he doesn't have a father. So we're asking, who is the father of someone who doesn't exist? If someone doesn't exist, he doesn't have a father. So if there is no God to begin with, there's no one to create him. So it assumes another thing, that this creator exists, and you want to know who created this creator. Unless we actually qualify those statements, it's not meaningful to continue. But let's move on, just to show you how.
This is getting so complicated.
No, very important though.
I'm glazing over.
No,
I can see she's.
No, do you know why it's important? Because people.
Let me just say one thing, because I've been where she is.
Yeah, but can I finish?
No,
Yeah?
you can in a minute, because I'm going to leave you to it. I'm glazing
You
over.
want to leave? Okay, that's fine. So finish
But
and
what I'm
then
saying
I'll
is,
continue.
I've been where you are. I believe God's always existed, and that's very difficult for us to comprehend. Just like it's very difficult for us to comprehend, if you travel out there in space, you'll never come to an end. We know that's the truth, but we can't understand it. And it's the same thing with God. Some things we can't understand. You're very clever, and it's complicated.
I'm not.
You need to talk in our language,
Yes,
rather
but
than
I'm going
to be in a university.
I'm going into as details
I'm gonna go.
because this is a
Nice to
question
meet
that people often ask. So we, at least this gives you an exposure.
I'm not saying I don't disagree
No,
with religion.
no,
I'm
no,
not
no.
saying I don't believe in God. I'm just saying, once you can give me the scientific evidence,
We come back to that. That's the question that I was going to go to. But let's finish this this question about who created the creator briefly then, okay? So we believe, in fact, every believer believes God is uncreated, didn't have a beginning. So you're asking, who created the uncreated? You see how he contradicts? It's like saying, if I were to ask you a question, don't look at the sun. How many legs does the sun walk upon? 5 or 6? I've asked you a question. What would be the answer? That's not the question I asked. You are answering the question, which is, does the sun have any legs? And you're answering, it doesn't have any legs. I asked you, how many legs does he have? 5 or 6? So I even give you a limit and options. You know that this question is not a question because it violates something what we call, it shows an internal contradiction. Sun doesn't have legs, and I'm assuming the sun have legs, and then asking how many legs does he have? Because the sun doesn't have legs, and I ask you to say how many legs. It's not a question because it is inherently contradictory, right? Who created God is also inherently contradictory statement, because the God that we believe in is uncreated, beginningless, eternal with no beginning. So it doesn't make any sense.
then how does
So
he
will be the
exist?
scientific.
If he has no
And we
beginning?
don't
What would be-
believe he's
Okay.
there at all. Anyway.
What would be
How
the
do we know?
scientific
How do we know he exists? Is exactly the very question I asked you about
Yes.
something and nothing. Okay, let's go into this, right? If we are something, it is rational to conclude. There cannot be a time where there's absolute nothingness, because absolute nothingness has no energy. To make something, in our worldview, you need energy. If there was no energy to begin with, there would be no energy. That means there has to be something always. There has to be. If something exists now, there has to be always something. You cannot get away from this. Because you exist, there has to be something that exists forever in the past. Something. As to what that something is, we will discuss this. But we have to conclude rationally. Because you and I exist, there has to be, without a shadow of doubt, something that exists always without a beginning. Now, the next question is, what is that something? Either it's the universe, or another universe, part of this multiverse, bubble. So one gives you another universe. You know how they explain the multiverse? It's like a bubble and then it comes from one from the other and so on. Always exists. Or a creator that has created this. In terms of how many creator there is, if there's a concept of creator, you can actually narrow it down to one creator. And that's the example I gave you earlier on. Something else created this creator, something else. Okay, let me just go through this anyway on this. So at least we are on the same race, right? If our universe was created by creator A, who was created by creator B, A was created by B, B was created by C, and it goes on, right? So let's deal with this. If it goes on forever, this universe will never come into existence. Do you know why? It's something called infinite regress. You can look this up, you can read about it more. I'm sure you have read about it. But let me explain how in a simple way. You are the librarian. You've got books in your bag. Now, I want to borrow the book from you. I have infinite number of people in front of me. Infinite number of people. So, all the people in front of me have to borrow the books from you first before I borrow my personal book from you. Would I be able to borrow the book from you ever? Because there are infinite number of them. So if there are infinite number of creators before our universe, each creating one or other, our universe will never come into existence, will never be created. Never. This creation will never take place because there's more creator to create first. Since it is impossible to have infinite number or chain of creators, that means that chain is finite. That means there is a creator prior to who there is no one else. That creator has to be the eternal creator with no beginning. Because if there was a beginning, who began? Another one, it goes on.
Keep it brief though.
Do you follow so far?
I don't agree.
But do you follow so far? You don't have to agree or disagree, but do you follow so far? Right. So, the fact that we exist, it is rational to conclude if there is a creator, there will be a creator who has no beginning. Some might say, but there could be more than one creator. Again, this is not rational. Let me give you another example why there cannot be more than one absolute eternal creators. Do you drive? Right. Suppose now I change your car and there's two steering wheels, two controls of clutch and gear and brakes, left and right. You sit on the left and I sit on the right. You want to go to the north and I want to take the car to the south. I don't listen to you, you don't listen to me because I'm independent. And you're independent too. Where's the car going to go? It's not going to go wherever you want to take it. It shows that if someone or something is absolute, you cannot have more than one absolute because there will be chaos like this. If there's more than one creator of our universe, we're absolute, all powerful, all knowledgeable, there will be chaos. One of them says, oh, I like this one, I want to live for another 100 years. Another one says, I don't like this guy, you die now. What's going to happen to him? Does he live for 100 years or does he die? Chaos. So there can only be one absolute creator. So monotheism is only rational, not polytheism. This is in brief. Only monotheistic beliefs, who believes in eternal creator with no beginning, is the rational belief. You asked about evidence. So let's go from rational understanding to scientific. What kind of evidence will satisfy you that the creator exists?
Just proof, like, the same proof that there is that of evolution and the Big Bang. There's proof that there is evolution and the Big Bang, scientific proof. So I want kind of the same equivalent for proving that God exists.
Evolution is presumptive. Lot of assumptions and lot of interpretations. To give you a classical example of how this is done is the fossil records. Yeah? Fossil records. When you look at the fossil records, there are layers, distinct layers of fossils within a strata, right? Do we know that the top strata came from the bottom? We don't. We assume. It's an assumption. So we interpret the evidence to say this is how it's done. But there's no proof for this. So evolution has a lot of assumptions and interpretation. Big Bang, again, what does Big Bang tell us? Big Bang tells us our universe, which somehow exploded and it's expanded. This does not in any way contradict the existence of a creator. The creator can create this universe, and this is how the nature of our universe is going. In fact, this is what the Quran is explaining about the universe. That God created this universe when everything was one piece, and there was a separation, and then God is expanding the universe.
Are you saying that God created the universe then? He did. Just like a yes or no answer? Yes. But then how can you prove, okay, so let's say there is a creator. How can you prove that the creator of the universe is God? How do you know he's not somebody else? You're just assuming.
You don't have to call him God if you don't want to. If it's a creator, then it's a creator. Yeah, you don't have to call him God.
He just said that he believes that the creator is God. So I'm going based on what he's saying.
How about going step by step? We can rationally conclude there's a creator of our universe.
Jesus.
This is a creation, there's a creator. The next question to ask is,
Jesus,
whatever this creator is,
Jesus don't want to know.
what are the characteristics and attributes and qualities of this creator? Number one, this creator of our universe possesses energy.
Jesus.
Without energy, nothing, right?
I want to die for you.
Possesses
I
energy.
don't want to die.
We said this creator possesses energy, has energy,
Okay, there we go.
is one and absolute.
Why did Jesus say,
Yeah?
Ilahi, Ilahi,
If this
why have you
creator is one and absolute, beginningless, this creator cannot have, some kind of lineage. This is absolute. You don't need something to bring this creator into existence. So there's no lineage, and there won't be lineage backwards or forwards. So if you were to imagine like a person, that thing is a person, doesn't have family, no parents, no offspring. So absolute, eternal, one, independent too, because it's eternal, unique, no lineage whatsoever. Can there be any likeness to anything that you can imagine? There can be nothing comparable to this creator. It has to be totally different, because we are all limited, finite, independent.
But that still doesn't mean it's.
Yeah, okay. Look. So do you see these qualities? Guess what? Guess what? Anyone has a physical copy of the Quran? I have an Arabic version. There's a small chapter in the Quran, number 112, Surah Al-Ikhlas. You know what it says? Say, He is Allah. This is the name given to this creator, who is one and only and unique. He is eternal, absolute and independent. Not begotten or not born, and not giving birth or not having any children. And there is no co-equal, and there's no comparison, there's no one like him whatsoever. That's exactly what we describe. So the Quran describes this creator with the qualities and attributes that you have come to, agree or disagree, whatever, come to understand without going into religious texts. But this is actually what the religious text is telling us. The Creator himself telling us this is who he is. He says, Badi'us samawati wal ard, the originator of the heaven and the earth. So now we have the Creator's call, the originator. So in the Quran, this Creator is given names and attributes of the Creator. 99 famous names that you probably heard of the Creator. Creator being one of them. Yeah? The other one, the one who shapes. Relational ones. The one who listens, the one who sees, the one who forgives, the one who is merciful, the one who is just. And about his nature as well, like he's well aware. So there's all of these descriptions are there of this Creator so that we know what we're talking about. Why we say God, what does God mean? Or in Arabic, ilah means, it means something that is worthy of worship. Okay? So when we say this Creator of ours is God, because this Creator is indeed worthy of worship. There's nothing else who's worthy of worship. Nothing whatsoever. Nothing in the creation that you can imagine. Even imagine, worthy of worship. No human beings, man or woman, no planets or stars or thunder or rain, flags or pop stars or nations or leaders. Nothing is worthy of worship. Angels, no. Messengers, no. None of them are worthy of worship. But the one who is the creator of everything, worthy of worship. Now, what is worship? Some people think, oh, worship means something very strange. No. Worship, in essence, is showing gratitude. Let me give you an example of what that is. After this discussion, suppose I walk with you and we were crossing the road. I didn't look, and you didn't look actually, because I'm quite, able to look after myself. And then I got run by a car. Both of you realize, you stopped the car, whatever that ambulance came, you went. Like, I'm unconscious. I don't know anything was happening. I only found out from this gentleman a week later. Right? He's sitting there when I woke up. He says, what day is it today? Oh, this is Sunday gone now. 1 week. He says, you know what happened? When you got run over by a car. That's why I feel good, right? And what happened is this, these two ladies, they took you to the hospital. And then they were there with you very, very long time. They visited you every day. What happened was this, you were bleeding. So much blood, you needed blood transfusion. And this is not the UK we're talking about. We're talking about another country where there's no blood available. There was no blood available, no blood bank. You said, check my blood. This local hospital, and your blood matched. You gave me blood to save my blood. So I am still on the intensive care. My kidneys are failing. One gone, two gone. Both of my kidneys are gone. They haven't got dialysis facilities. So all my other organs are going to one by one go off. You said, take one of my kidneys. You gave one of your kidneys. Look, you only met what? Half an hour? You gave me one of your kidneys, and then slowly, with the blood transfusion, I became stable, settled. I was still unconscious. A week later, you go, because you have to go, right? So you went, and this gentleman visited me, and then he's describing all of this. So now, you've come to visit me. What would be my natural response when I see you next time? Should be thank you. It's not because you wanted somehow thanks and flowers or chocolates. No, you did it because you are kind, you are merciful, who you are. Yeah? It's because of who you are, you did this, out of your own free will, out of your own compassion and mercy and your character and your person. My natural response is not to say, I didn't want it, get lost, whatever. No, it should be at least, thank you for what you've done. Thank you. Grateful, be grateful to you. When we say worship to a Creator, is to be grateful for everything the Creator has given us. Given us life and the means to sustain the life. The air that we breathe in, the water that we drink, the food that we consume, everything. Not one kidney, it's two kidneys, and a whole system. Digestive system, respiratory system, cardiac system, neural, everything there. Shouldn't I be grateful? I was grateful to you, and then one will give me everything, I shouldn't be grateful? That's why we say it's a natural response of the creation to show great gratitude and gratefulness to the Creator. And that's what I mean, God is worthy of worship, and we show our worship. Okay? And of course, we do worship the way our Creator is happy with, and our Creator has shown through prophets and messengers. That's the way we do it. So when we kneel down on the ground and put our forehead on the ground, that is showing our utmost humility. You know how people in the olden times they used to bow down to the king? What are they doing? Saying you're great, you're powerful. They're paying some kind of homage. God is the King of all kings. Yeah? He is the greatest. We should be bound down to him in this kind of surrender and servitude and submission that yes, you know.
We're not saying we disagree with that at all, we're just saying we don't believe.
I mean, I think you've explained why you believe in God, why you think He was in His presence very eloquently, and I can completely see that you have got a very reasoned argument to support your views.
And I respect that.
Yeah, absolutely respect your point of view. But we do not believe there is an existence of God. I can see how your arguments all come together beautifully to support your point of view. And I've listened, and yep, I completely agree how what you're saying supports your view. But our view is that there is no God.
You're entitled to your view. What we are only discussing is the reasons or the basis of why we believe what we believe. So I've just shared you the basis of why Muslims believe
and I can completely follow your thought process, and yep, I can understand how all of that pieces together to form your faith. Yep, I can understand it completely what you said. It doesn't change my mind because I'm coming at it from a different point of view.
You have to believe in the basis that you have.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Is there any chance you can share your basis of why you believe what you believe?
Yeah, we would love to. Yeah, we love
Well,
to.
I don't believe in God. I do believe in evolution. I don't think we have all the answers at all in evolution, and I'm probably not educated enough to be able to put forward all the different views. But I think science is based on assumptions. It's based on what we know at the moment. That view may well change as more evidence is discovered or as more theories are presented, and our views on evolution change over the years.
But you see, evolution is just a part of the reality, according to the scientists' understanding. So before things or animals or creatures or organisms evolved, there was matter to begin with.
Yeah.
So the question is still meaningful to ask,
Where did that come
did the
from?
matter exist always?
And you asked that, and I said,
And
I
we
don't
went-
know the answer to that. But then, we don't know the answer to everything, and I accept we don't know the answer to everything. There are some questions that we're yet to answer, which is why we keep exploring.
But there are
and-
some
and
questions we
finding
have to
things out.
ask and examine based on rationality rather than the scientific methodology. The science is limited in its scope. How great science is, Islam was never anti-science, anti-technology, has always been science and Islam, religion has been sisters. In fact, the most of the contributions that came from the Islamic civilization in the 7th century, first few hundred years, is what we now see the fruits of. Like the contributions of other civilizations, the Greeks and the Romans, the Hindus and the Persians, they all contributed. But at one point Islam contributed on its own. So you mentioned some of them, algebra, trigonometry, chemistry, optics, physics, you name them. They did not, miss a discipline. This is what I'm taught. Whether it's pharmacy or hospitals, everything there. What made them do that is because what the Quran is encouraging them to do. Go and see how God originated the creation. Go and explore. Go in the earth and see how God created the universe or originated everything. In the earth. Some people think it means just go travel along the earth. The words are used actually fil ard. So it possibly also inside the earth, and we are going inside the earth to explore and examine and discover a lot of things, or go into the space and find out. So God is constantly encouraging Muslims, and that's why they were able to contribute to all of this. So Islam is never anti-science, and based on what we understand by science, it is still limited in its scope. Why? Because it is dealing with a particular reality based on a methodology. Okay, it has a method called the scientific method. So, for example, would science ever be able to answer the question rather? Is she the most beautiful woman? Are you the most beautiful woman on this earth? Do you think science will be able to answer this question?
I don't think it's a relevant question.
It is a question, But science would not be able to answer that question because of its scientific methodology. This question goes, or it actually lays outside the realms of scientific questioning. Things like there are many questions which science cannot deal with because it is dealing with something else, empirical evidence, observations, making inference from them. So when it comes to about this universe at the beginning or not, when you have no evidence, you can still go into the rational inquiry, like we have done earlier on. And then you say, based on our rational examination and inquiry, this is the most appropriate answer which we can accept.
I do hear what you're saying. Just like you said, we don't completely agree. Like, I agree with some stuff you're saying, and I agree with some of it. I'm just saying that's just not the
You have some, I'm sure you have different views. And, okay? It's nice to meet you. It's all right, it's all right.
When you feel all alone in this world and there's nobody to count your tears, just remember no matter where you are, Allah knows.